I'm Ryan. This is my brother Daniel. This is Rolls and the Family. And today we are going to be counting down our top 3 favorite board gaming plays from the month of July. And this was one of the few months of the year that there were a lot of games played in person with the two of us.
Yes.
We don't get as many opportunities these days to play in person. So, each of us has to just ignore those ones and pick the few that weren't together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep, as we do. Yep.
Yes. So we'll see. There's chance for crossover here. Certainly more chance than normal.
That is true. Some is more than none. Good point, Ryan.
We will have links to all the games we talked about below if you want to check them out.
Yes.
If you purchase games through those links, it does help support the channel. And we also like to hear what games you've been playing. So if there are some top plays that you have from the month of July, drop those in the comments. We like reading through those. And maybe other people do too. I don't know if anybody else reads other people's comments. In theory, there's like a community down there, interacting.
We have a riveting community.
I don't think we're quite there, but
hey, we've got our few. We've got our few. We know who you guys are.
Yeah, the few, the proud,
the proud,
the Rolls in the Family subscribers. All right, let's jump in here. We'll start with Daniel's number 3.
Actually, Ryan, we've got I'm breaking the rules here. We're gonna have a couple honorable mentions because this was a incredible.
I was gonna say my 4 to 6 in a different month could be the 3.
This was an incredibly tough month. A lot of tough choices, but I mean, it was to land on 3 games. I mean, for one, Ryan, this one didn't make my list, but we. Played a game of Great Western Trail together, which was great. And of course, Ryan, I know you're shocked this isn't my top play of the month, but in our family reunion cribbage tournament,
yes.
Daniel took the W in the first round over Ryan. So
yes, we have every year for 15 plus years, that side of the family has done a cribbage tournament. And this year, Daniel and I drew each other in the first round, and Daniel somehow, against all odds. I mean, if you look at Daniel's historical cribbage tournament record, you will understand that this was an upset.
This was an upset.
You even won your second game, right?
I did. I know.
You made it to the final 4.
I made it to the final 4 before I had a bad downfall.
Surprised it's not your number 1.
Got skunked in the final 4. That's But yeah, Ryan. So just had to mention that. But now to our top 3. So. Yeah, wow. These are just 3 fantastic plays. My number 3 is a game that I have. By the way, Ryan, you are in all of these plays, so congratulations.
Yes. Actually, you're in all of mine as well.
Yes.
Look at that. We did it.
My number 3 is a game that I've gotten pretty recently, coming out of, for the longest time, my wife and I, but specifically my wife, really likes polyomino games. And we've played several different ones. We've played Patchwork. We played Isle of Cats. Most recently, you didn't get us it recently. We're playing it now recently. My City, which we've had a ton of fun with that. But this was one that kind of came out this last year, got a lot of buzz, really interested me. And so my number 3 is going to go to World Wonders. So at our family reunion, we were able to get a full 5-player game of World Wonders. And I'd only played 3 players up until that point. And so I was really curious kind of how would this game do at the 5-player count? Because I've actually heard a little bit of that may not be the best player count, with sometimes games just get longer. But I just thought we had a really great play of it. I mean, I thought it played in a reasonable amount of time. I forget the exact number or whatnot. But man, that game, it takes kind of what I love about My City of the just really tight, polyomino kind of Tetris of fitting things together. And I think just does it so well.
And it kind of has that same, you can only play things next to what you've played.
Right.
And so, and the colors matter for where you can play, which I think is part of why it feels similar to me.
Yeah. Cause the placement restriction, right, is you either have to play next to a building of the same color or next to a road. And so there's an element of, getting a lot of roads out so that you can try to, which Ryan was doing a fantastic job of getting roads out.
Yeah. I'll talk about that in a second.
Ryan had just a large slab of pavement covering half his map.
Yeah, come see the world wonder, the world's largest parking lot. Seventh wonder of the world, eighth wonder of the world.
Hey, for the record, Ryan won this game.
I did. Remarkably.
Ryan beat me by 1 point. Oh, it's so sad. But anyway, so I love the placement, just restrictions, and I think we like games where it's just really tense of trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to fit all these things together? What makes it even more interesting is kind of the whole shtick of the game is building these wonders, and they just look beautiful, the wooden pieces in your whatever board. And something, we were actually talking about this after the game that I think is so good about the wonders is they're great. They're obviously, important to build. They give you points, but they actually make it then harder with how do you then fit everything together around the wonder? You work so hard to get the wonder out there, and then you're like, okay, now how the heck am I gonna, get everything else to work around it? So it was a blast. We had a pretty wide age range of people playing the game, and I think everyone really enjoyed it. In that, rules wise, actually pretty simple. In that, you just 7 gold, right? You just spend your gold, grab what you want, place it on your board. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be doing great, but that whole thing just works well. And then the just central rule of, but you get a point for every piece that you surround is what incentivizes, rather than just completely spreading like crazy, trying to do the kind of Tetris thing of really fitting everything together. And that is something that I didn't experience in Isle of Cats that I'm getting here, and ultimately why it's one that just I've played it several times now and really pumped to have it in the collection. Definitely have my eye on those expansions of more wonders, because man, you just keep making those beautiful wooden pieces.
It's a pretty low cost expansion. Like, it just adds 9 new.
Well, and the interesting thing with the expansion is now they're even looking into now making wonders have there's kind of an optional mode now where they score in some unique kind of variable ways versus
it's not just 1.2
which I think would be awesome. I want them to retroactively do that for all the original wonders too, because I think that'd make it even more fun.
Well, I was looking more into it because I was curious how they were going to handle like doing those together, and I think it's that like at any time the 3 wonders that are available, 2 of them are from the old deck and 1 of them's from the new.
Oh, interesting.
So you're kind of guaranteed to have this like 2 that don't have variable scoring things and 1 that does.
That's pretty cool.
And I think that's a pretty good way to do it. And I hope then they expand so that there's more and more, in that other deck.
Yeah.
So this one just missed my list. Number 4,
even with the win,
had a really good time with it. It has a few very like intriguing things with like the action economy in it, because you get 7 coins or whatever to use that round, and you could go spend 5 on a big piece and you're gonna have less, or you could do it on smaller things. But then it's got the fascinating thing that to build these wonders is always the rest of your money.
Yeah.
So those can be very efficient, like good value actions if you can pay low cost. Well, those are all shared. Anybody can go after those. And especially in a 5-player game where there's only 3 of them, other people are eyeing the same ones that you're eyeing.
Yeah.
And so you can't just assume it's going to be there. And so you have to kind of make a decision of like, do I play this round fast? Do I get one of those big pieces so that I can still get the wonder for good value, but I'm just going to be there a lot sooner than someone who's taking smaller things? Or do I do something different? But the other thing that I found fascinating is sometimes you're not able to build a wonder, or someone built the one that was like, well, that's the one I maybe could have. And then you maybe have these extra actions. And in a 5-player game, like a lot of the smaller pieces get eaten up to where there may not be a lot of options that are low cost. And so then there's like the groups of roads that are low cost. Each one is 1. And so this is why this happened to me in the first, where I got the crazy road, is I'm like, well, I have like 3 money left. There's nothing like I can buy, no pieces really I can buy at that cost. I can't build a wonder. I think I had or people had already taken the start player things. So it was literally like, I can either take roads or not. Like that was the only thing to take. And I had never played the game before. So I was like, well, it's probably good for me to like, I just like shot this like sidewalk up my board that I'm like, that gives me a lot of options of where I can build things. And it worked out. I kind of was able to wrap on the top and like work up there while I worked down. And we had a scoring condition that like your largest like uncovered group in the middle of your board, like that green field or whatever. So that kind of worked well for that.
I hope we got a picture
very
of your board.
interesting. I think it's one of the big draws of the just the game in general is just that kind of the action economy and how you get the most out of that 7 money every round, while not always slow playing it and maybe missing out on ones that other people are getting to first.
Yeah. So there you go, Ryan. My number 3.
There you have it. My number 3, you mentioned as one of your honorable mentions. So our 3s, we each narrowly missed each other's lists. This is a game that is making it. Sometimes the reason a game makes the list is because you haven't played it in a long time, and playing it just reminds you, man, I just really, really enjoy this game. And this happened to me with Great Western Trail, which you mentioned, that we played just 2-player, which is not often. Like usually my games of this are with 3. And I will say, I think I prefer it at 3. I think 2 is a very interesting dynamic because it already is prone to go more quickly because there's going to be less buildings that you have to go through. But it also, like, if the other player is going faster, you feel like you have to match pace, because if the other player is getting more trips to Kansas City than you, it feels like it's going to be difficult to win or difficult to compete. Maybe, there's ways you can, get around it by taking like actions very efficiently. But usually in that game, my mindset tends to be like, go almost as quickly as I can to Kansas City while still hitting the goals I want to for like where I want to deliver. So that meant our game was flying. I mean, it was, and the fact that like there's only that little row or the column on the side that you put the people that ultimately determines the end of the game. There's only 2 columns. So like every time somebody delivers,
it's moving a row.
Yeah, it's like moving it faster. And so it just felt so fast, which in some ways I think is why I like 3-player more, is it felt like we maybe didn't have as much opportunity to. We had like no people. Like at the end of the game, you score for having like 4. We had like 1 person at the end because we had dropped some off at train stations. But there just wasn't time to be getting a lot of people, and we were.
Our score was so low.
Our scores were awful, but in a 2-player game, it doesn't matter. In fact, we tied. I think it was 48-48. Yep. If you know anything about Great Western Trail, you know that is not a high score. But in a 2-player game, you play to each other, and that's kind of the pace we were going at. I did, in fact, win the tiebreaker, which was kind of a funny one because we looked in the rulebook and it said you share the victory.
And I'm still sharing it.
Yeah. And if there's anything we don't do on this channel, it's share the victory. Publishers, don't put that crap in your rulebooks.
I would rather lose than share the victory with you.
We will both say we lost rather than... No, so we looked up because I was like, I'm pretty sure Great Western Trail is played at the new World Series of Board Gaming in Vegas, and they must have, it's obviously a competitive setting. So we looked up what's their official rule, and the official rule is whoever's the latest in turn order. So whoever had kind of the disadvantage at the beginning of the game. And I was like, okay, we can buy into that. And I can buy into that because it was me.
It's actually not even what it said, or you were just,
Dangle doesn't know. He didn't see it with his own eyes.
It's a lot of board gaming.
But I was very impressed. While you lose a little bit going to 2-player, we played it in just over an hour. And that is a crunchy, you feel like you did a lot type of game to play in just over an hour. So very fun. We played with the Rails to the North expansion, which we enjoy playing with if it's a game that's
a great expansion.
A group that's played before, just the options with the branchlets.
It makes Kansas City so much more interesting. Or
delivering. You went to Kansas City. Oh gosh. I'm surprised you tied with me because it's like -8 points.
Hey, there's competitive people who will say,
no, I know,
rushing to Kansas City right off the bat.
Well, the Rails to the North expansion nerfed it a little bit. Like it's more of a downside now.
Hey, but still tied.
Yep, still tied, except not really. Score tied. So great play of Great Western. Just remind me, it really is one of my top games, and it is it is so different from it. Like just the pacing.
Yeah.
Like so much of the game is about pace and like this action is good, but is it worth me slowing down
Yep.
to do in the way the board changes? I really love it.
It's so fun. So fun. Very nice, Ryan. Yeah, that one shockingly, well, if I would have won, I would have made my list.
Just bumped it off the list.
But now it's down with cribbage in the honorable mentions. Okay, Ryan, my number 2 is a game that is quite new to my collection. You got to try it when you were here. You actually got to try it twice because the first play.
Why did we play it?
The first play had one of the most egregious rules cheats we've ever had in a board game. I blame Ryan. But fortunately, we were able to redeem it with our second play. And this is going to go to Grand Austria Hotel. I feel like I first have to set the stage for what went wrong in the first play.
Yeah.
So,
because I was having a dandy old time that first play.
Okay, Ryan was destroying me. Like I'm like, what is happening? I mean, he's lapping me on the victory point track, and I mean, this is just an absolute blowout. So I taught the game because I own it, and that's sometimes worth.
It's my first time playing.
For Ryan's first time playing. Well, with the staff cards, there is a distinction of icons between the.
There are in fact 4 different.
Yeah, so
ones.
I only communicated that there were 3 different symbols, but there are 4, and there's a difference between ones that do the action just once when you play it, and that's it, and ones that can do their action every round. Well, Ryan had one to get 4 wine. That the symbol is supposed to just give you 4 wine when you play it, and then it's done. Well, Ryan thought you could do that every single round,
which seemed really powerful. But you have to understand. This is coming from the designers that do a game like Lorenzo Il Magnifico, which has some pretty crazy powers. And you had specifically said, there's 3 types, and the one that is 1x is you can do 1 per round, and the icon is literally 1x, and the other one has like an arrow or something. I taught the game
wrong, Ryan. It's okay.
Well, not only did I have one that I was taking, you should have seen my wine cellar. I was like, I hope wine's worth something at the end of the game because I have so much extra wine. But the other one that was arguably even more powerful was I had the one that is supposed to just be once when you play it, fulfill any order without paying anything for it. So I did that every round because I was like, "Oh, this is really good."
Oh my gosh! It got us thinking about just the worst, most egregious rules cheats, that we've ever done, and that
this one. This has to be up there because this is one of the few that we got to the end of the game and we didn't even finish all of scoring because we're like,
well, I had that moment of I looked in the rule book and I was like, "Oh no."
We were so far past where we could correct anything.
We couldn't redeem it. Yeah. So we didn't even record the scores. So anyways, all that to be said, that was the first game. And that was a very sad ending to that game because it was like,
what otherwise was a very fun experience. Yeah.
So fortunately, we got to play it again. And I think this second playing under the correct rules, we got to really just experience an awesome game of Grand Austria Hotel. That game has such a fun, process of the whole, recruiting, or not recruiting, I guess, drawing, picking people to come to your hotel and, slotting them in one of those 3 spots. And then you got to figure out how to get them the, the food and drinks that they want. And then you're preparing the rooms and like the whole just cycle, that's happening. Is so satisfying and rewarding, and you're just trying to like, okay, where am I bottlenecking in the chain here?
Yep,
like,
exactly.
is it I am not getting people out of the tables fast enough? Am I not preparing rooms fast enough? Well, you're also trying to do
every turn.
Yeah,
you get to take a person if you want.
I know. So you got to you got to keep it moving. Yeah, and so and then you've got all of that, with like the public scoring objectives that you're kind of trying to race for as well. And then you also have this emperor track that you're needing to go up on. And an interesting thing that we kind of talked about afterwards is you sometimes forget how few actions you have in that game.
Totally.
And because you have 2 actions around
for 7 rounds.
It's 14.
So it's like
14 actions for
which
the game.
You're doing a lot of them is like multiple action. Like some of them, you're trying to do them with more dice, but the amount of different actions you're going to take is only 14, which that really reframes like those staff cards where it's like, oh, I've got a staff card that every time I go to this particular action, like there was the one you had in the first game and I had in the second game where instead of having to choose Emperor track or money, you got both. And so it's like, oh, that'll be great. But you got to really think, if there's 14 actions in the game, I'm playing this at action 3. I know I have to do a lot of other things. Like I'm gonna have to prepare a room. Like it's not like other games where you're maybe going to be hitting that action so many times to take advantage of that. So I think I overvalued like, oh, I'm going to put out all these staff cards and then take advantage of them for the whole game.
Yeah, you really do have to kind of pick and choose. Maybe I can't get the Emperor track. And maybe I have to, like, the negatives are bad. But there is something to be said of like, okay, which one of the Emperor track ones that are bad could I be okay with and maybe work around? I was thinking
which
about
is so interesting because hearing you say that is exactly how we would talk about Lorenzo Il Magnifico with the excommunication, where it's got the really terrible, effects for the rest of the game if you get excommunicated. But there's times where it's like it may be worth doing that even if taking the negative.
Yeah, so a lot of, it's one I want to keep playing more because I think you really have to think about the efficiency of what you're doing because you don't have that many actions. But man, it's a fun game. It is a really just fun system. I love the rolling of it's a similar thing to Lorenzo of we love how you roll the dice and well, aren't technical issues fun, Ryan? But we're back.
Yep. We can always count on
one
every few videos.
Got it. I had to sneak in our weekly tech issue into our videos. But anyways, I'm assuming we talked about Grand Austria Hotel enough. So fantastic game. My number 2. Ryan, what about you? What's your number 2?
I'm going to continue with just us having a grand old time. We've had, and we'll just keep talking about Grand Austria because that is my number 2.
Oh my gosh! Wow, Ryan.
It's funny because when we were playing that first game, and I was really enjoying myself. Now, some of that was my embarrassment of riches and what I was getting.
Was it once you lapped me? Was that
it was like that was when I knew this is a top play. No, but I was like confident this is going to be a top play. I just the way the game worked was just clicking with me, and it really like a lot of it not just because of the rules mistake. But I'm so glad we got to play it again. Now, the one thing I realized in the second time is I just did not have a well-calibrated, like what you can expect to achieve in the game and like what to shoot for. So, and after, having such an embarrassment of riches in the first game, I definitely thought I was going to do way more.
Yeah.
And it hurt me because I kind of like was trying to do all these things, then realized like, oh my gosh, there's like 2 rounds left and I'm like half baked on like all these different things. So I was like, well, that did not work. I need to like abandon a few things and try to, tie up some of the ends. But I just really enjoy what's going on here. And fun fact, we played Great Western Trail in an hour and 12 minutes, 2-player. We played Grand Austria Hotel in an hour and 12 minutes, 2-player. It was exactly the same. And both of those are just crunchy games to play in that time. So that was one thing I really enjoyed about it, is how quickly we could play it. But just such a fun efficiency puzzle, just kind of across the board. The efficiency with the actions, the efficiency with keeping your hotel moving with the customers coming through. And you add in like the hand of cards at the beginning, and it's not quite the level of an Agricola or some of these other games where it's so powerful and how it's going to change it. But they make each game feel different, and it is
they're significant,
something.
Yeah,
there are some significant abilities there. So I had a great time with it. Enough so that it's moved up on. It's been on my wish list for a long time. It was really Daniel finding. You found it secondhand, right?
I did. Yes, it was a great deal.
So we're glad that happened, so we could both have the opportunity to see that we really like it. But yeah, just in some of the same ways that like Lorenzo really clicks for me. I think these designers with these kind of like dice Euro medium weight, it just kind of hits right, and it's nice to have ones that aren't so long. I know we kind of were looking up because there's the Let's Waltz expansion that's pretty highly rated, and we looked a little bit at what it added, and we're like, this looks amazing.
It looks
as far as like some of the variable. And unfortunately, it's like completely out of print.
If any of you own it and don't want it anymore,
yes,
comment down below.
So I hope that they're planning on doing kind of a reprint
so
of Great.
Good.
Maybe they'll do what they did with Lorenzo. With Lorenzo, they reprinted it as the big box and they included the expansion in the box. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be cool.
But yeah, it's definitely one that I think I would love to have. It fits kind of, there's definitely some other games I have in that category, but it does feel pretty different.
Yeah.
And a little easier maybe to get to the table than some of these longer ones. So glad I had the opportunity to finally play Grand Austria.
And glad we got to try it twice because, man, that first game was tragic.
Oh, I would have been so sad if we just had that first one because I would have been like, everything in me wants to put this in my top plays, but I can't.
Ended like a train crash. It was like we walked away sad from the play.
It's like a missed opportunity.
It was tough.
Yeah, it's very rare. I didn't like in the board game stats app. We didn't even put any scores in because it was these would be the most meaningless.
I know we're at end game scoring and we're like, why are we even doing this? This is pointless. Yeah, that was tough. Very nice, Ryan. So we're to number one now. This could be the same, I suppose.
It could be.
I think it is. My number one is a game that, I would say is the culmination of games that we have owned throughout the years, going all the way back to Terra Mystica, a game that I loved a lot. I really, really liked Terra Mystica. Then Ryan ended up getting Gaia Project and really loved a lot of the changes they did with Gaia Project. Some of the like variability was really cool. But it always just, if it was missing some I'm not even sure what it was, but like I just still, there was part of me is like, man, I love Terra Mystica. Gaia Project was a little obtuse, just a little more like, gosh, my brain is just like breaking here. And then Ryan says he is getting this game, which is my number one, Age of Innovation. And us being together for this last couple weeks, we were able to get a 3-player game of Age of Innovation. And my goodness.
Which is saying something.
Yeah.
You have to understand, Daniel and I both have 2 young kids under 4 is the oldest. So like when we get together, it is not easy to get these big games to the table. There's a lot of coordination.
And so thank you
to our mom.
Our mom, our wives.
Because your wife played in this game, and that was honestly what makes it extra hard.
Yes,
to make it happen.
Yeah, yes. Mom was helpful. Nap time's helpful. You got to do like board gaming with young kids it's a challenge, man. But we were able to try this, and Ryan, it was so good. Like this game, it was everything I wanted from. It brought back what I loved about Terra Mystica. But injected all the variability that I could want. I mean, you're reteaching it to us because it had been a little while since we'd played Terra Mystica, and then you put the randomized, factions combined with abilities, and we're drafting, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever! Like this is so cool. Like you're just these. And they're all very interesting and very distinct and powerful. And so, like I was the mountain psychics. So I had this the psychics were sweet because I could just, as a free action, generate power. And so, I'm just, and I combined that with, I ended up,
and it was generate power and then immediately take an action.
Yes.
So
generate.
And especially in the late game when there's competition over those power actions on the board, you could generate and grab one without a chance of getting blocked.
And so I had that. And then my, Not Stronghold.
Yeah, not Stronghold.
What's the main
Palace.
big one?
I think it's the Palace. I think it's Palace.
Okay.
Yeah.
My Palace also generated power, and then I also it's funny when you first were teaching kind of the books or whatever that you can get.
Mm-hmm.
At first I was like, okay, is that just am I gonna be able to is that just gonna feel like this extra thing that I have a hard time kind of understanding? I don't know. I was able to grasp it, and I was able to get some really powerful ones that were able to also help generate power and stuff like that. So there were just moments of like, oh my gosh, I am building such a cool combination of things here. But there's so many different paths and routes that you can go. So it was just an absolute blast. I mean, I've always loved the Terra Mystica system of building and upgrading, and it's changing what you're producing, and then the managing of the power. One interesting thing about the power is I don't think I once in the game generated power by being next to someone who built.
We had a weird game because the three of us all kind of started apart, and I think we were 5 rounds into the game before somebody built or upgraded next to somebody.
So it was an expensive game when you're building all those
anytime you upgrade to your guild. Not a trading post.
Yeah. So anyways, I mean, playing it once, afterwards immediately went into the BGG app and put must have on that game, because it was everything I could have wanted from it. And I just thought we had a great play of it. It was just really interesting, really tight. And I mean, Daniel's enjoying a game when I'm like verbally like giddy as the game's going. And
which you honestly were the last time we played Gaia Project.
Yeah.
So I was pretty confident you were going to love this one.
I did love it. It was so great. And so there you go, Ryan. That is my it's my number one for the month. I know we for a while been discussing wanting to, obviously, you playing it, but then letting me try it as well. And so I was so happy that we were intentional. We're like, okay, you're gonna watch the kids here.
Yeah, it was the one on the vacation that it was like, this one we'd love to get it played, but it's not gonna be easy.
Yep. So we got to the table, and it was a fantastic play. But the question is, Ryan, is this gonna be your number one, or are we going a different direction?
Please pause the video now and place your vote below. Your bets. Yeah, no, we're going to have to keep lavishing the praise on Age of Innovation, because it is indeed my number one of the month. This was my second time playing it. I think I've only played it twice. So it's nice to kind of come into it with like feeling like I was even more comfortable with it. And yeah, I mean, so much of it is, we love Terra Mystica. I liked Gaia Project even a little bit more just because of the variability I really loved. And so it shares 90% of the same DNA. So like, I'm going to have a really good experience with it because I know I love that type of game. But just seeing the way this like final form comes together in Age of Innovation, there's just so much that I just love with the variability, and like, it adds that new system with the getting books, and books can either be used to do the book actions that are kind of like the power actions, but they're randomized. It's 3 out of like 6 options. So love that. But then it also is how you can work towards these innovations, which are kind of, a lot of this game, and I think even, Terra Mystica Gaia Project is about finding ways to make those big point plays. Like, how are you going to make like something that's really going to be kind of these big plays? And that's really what a lot of the innovations are. They're like these, I could score 10 to 15 points if I execute on this one. And so those are, really fun to go after. And there's this tension between going after those, or I could use the books on these book actions that are very good, but like then I'm taking away the books that I could use for this. Now in my game, books were not a scarcity because I was I forget the terrain I was, but I was the philosophers. And so I just got free books. Like my action was I think I had an action to get a book, and whenever I took a competency pile, I got an extra book of that color. So I just had a lot of ability to get a lot of books, which is a lot of fun because that's arguably the most fun like area of the game is to engage with the books and the innovations. I love how the competency tiles, it's always the same 12, but you randomize their locations. So whether it's on blue or yellow, whichever the discipline tracks. But then it also, the top row is just move up 3 on that track on the actual discipline track, which is kind of you want to go up to generate power. You want to go up to maybe get some income, but it's also at the end of the game going to score based on who's, at what position.
Yeah.
But then as you go down rows in the competencies, you get fewer spaces on that, but you get books of the color. So the decision of which competency tile to take of how much do I want to go up on the track versus getting books? If I want to get books, what color do I want to get? Because the color will dictate which innovations it potentially, which it's pretty forgiving. It's not like you really, it's usually I need 2 yellow and 3 of anything. So as long as you have 2 of the one you want to go after. And so I appreciated that. So you didn't kick yourself later of I can't get the innovation I want now.
Right.
But yeah, just the way that it just leads to so many interesting decisions because it's that layered on top of which competency tile do I want? Because those give you production or instant resources or scoring things.
Yeah.
And so it's just a really rich decision. It kind of has the new thing that whoever builds their palace first gets to draft a palace ability.
That's so cool.
So that's all decoupled from the actual race boards. I basically made a beeline to build mine and get the one because I saw that we were all apart. And so I got the one that let you do as an action, you could upgrade a school to a guild for free.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I think was one of the biggest reasons I won, because since we were apart, you guys were having to pay a lot more, whereas I was, getting this free upgrade that I avoided that 6 coin cost.
Right.
And yeah, it's such a fun game to play with the round bonuses that kind of guide you a little bit if I want to try to do this round. And it's tactical but strategic. It's probably more tactical for us because we're not that good at it. Right. I think the game gets more strategic the better you are at the game.
That's why I like
really
being
start
bad at board
mapping
games,
out.
Ryan.
Yeah, it's more fun when you're bad. But yeah, we're not coming from a really competitive,
I'm pretty competitive
perspective on this.
I'm not good, but I'm competitive.
In this game. yeah, true. Yeah, and I liked it. The kind of the end game is you're kind of searching for what are the best ways for me to squeeze out points. I kind of ended up getting a competency tile that scored for me building on the edge of the board.
Yeah,
I kind of had I had this little scene that I could work up, and it was aligned with the getting extra points for the round for building schools in the last.
I got
round.
a 3rd city.
Not to mention doing all building. You did get a 3rd city, so you had the most cities.
Yeah.
But me building all those, I want to call them towns. I think they're schools.
Yeah, they're schools.
No, schools are those are the ones that used to be laboratories.
Yeah, universities.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the bottom?
And universities,
are you talking about the bottom
university
ones?
is the big one. Schools are the ones that give you competency tiles. Yeah. What are the bottom ones? I don't know. Something that turns into guild.
Yeah.
But it also the fact that I built all those in the last round, I just passed you for the final area scoring. I had the most.
That was the
buildings, and that swung
kicker.
a big.
I thought I had
end.
that one, and yeah, you passed me in that. That was tough.
Yep. So super pleased with this one. It feels like Gaia Project was always one that I was disappointed it didn't get to the table more, and this is still going to be one
hard.
That's hard to get to the table. You need the right group, but it just feels like I no longer have any fringe reservations about it. It's this is exactly what I want this game to be. And that's a good feeling when we've enjoyed the system for so long.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're probably going to expand it, seeing as they've expanded both Terra Mystica and Gaia Project after the newer ones come out. They're supporting all these
more factions, more books, more
more
palace tiles, more
I mean, a game that's so variable is very easy to expand.
It really is, Ryan. They took Terra Mystica and said, okay, how do we make Ryan and this a game that Ryan and Daniel absolutely love? And all the changes are things that with people who love variability is just fantastic.
Yeah. Yep. An excellent game to close out an excellent month of gaming.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to check out any of these games, we've got links down below, and we've got a whole playlist of our top board games from each month. If you like these type of videos, want to check them out, we've got a link to that right here. And YouTube's got another suggestion for you, but we will see you guys in the next video.